Well, good afternoon, everyone. John Lamb down here at Las Vegas, Nevada with Kelly Stewart. We set through the morning and we got some reporting to do. What happened in jury selection. Pretty boring, but there are a few interesting facts, and we've got a long week ahead of us. So you'll be getting some reporting throughout the week every day down here of what's going on. All four defendants were in the courtroom today. That's something we didn't know was going to happen yesterday. With what happened with the visits out there in Henderson, we were not able to see Ammon or Ryan Bundy, but today all four of them were there. All four of them were dressed in prison clothes, kind of a bright orange, red color, and Ammon and Ryan still had Pahrump prison uniforms on that said detainee, where Cliven and Ryan Payne, they had the same color, the red, but it was from Henderson Detention Center instead of Pahrump. So even the judge did not get that cleared up herself. She kept calling all of them, that all of them was wearing prison clothes, and she did not really know why. But so then all four defendants were there. There was a few arguments and motions. First thing, before the potential jurors were called in, and Morgan Philpott made a few points. One thing he made on record today is that he said that this shooting in Las Vegas that just happened here earlier in October, he feels and his team feels that it was directly involved with this trial. And he wanted to elaborate more. The judge shut him down and said, we'll discuss that later. But he says that he felt, and his legal team felt, that this shooting was involved and this trial should be put off, and he was going to file another motion later today to be heard at one point this week to try to put the trial off further. We know that Friday there's supposed to be a motion heard to dismiss the whole trial. So we're kind of just seeing what's happening here, but there's a lot of things happening. We brought in like 76 potential jurors a day that are being questioned, and things are going on, and we're going to see if this, in which one of them jurors is going to be allowed to stay, if any of these 76 jurors. We have several hundred we're going to go through this week, and we'll see which one of them are actually going to be on this trial. They did read off 1,145 potential witness names, a lot of them. I got 3 pages just that I wrote down myself. Glenn Beck is one of them. Michael Dennis Lynch again. Michelle Fiore. We've got Lombardo, the sheriff of Clark County. And one thing that was interesting there, before I forget that, is that Lombardo is a witness here, and he's going to be brought in, as he has been before. Juror number 1, the very first juror on the list, is friends with Lombardo. Even had dinner with him this past Sunday, and he's still sitting on as a potential juror at this moment. You can't make this kind of stuff up. This the kind of thing that they should have caught that before he was ever called in, that he was friends for the last several years. He goes to the shooting range with Lombardo. And here he is on the witness list. I know you wrote out a bunch of names.
The other potential juror that stood out to me was the one who works at the assessor's office, and her boss is on the witness list, and the judge asked if that would be a problem for her to be unbiased in judging the testimony of her boss. And she said no, she didn't think she would be unbiased when she's judging the testimony of her own boss. I don't know about you, but I'd have a very difficult time accusing my own boss of lying on the witness stand if I was a juror. So I think that one should have been pulled immediately as well.
That is juror number 6.
Right.
So the very first few handful of jurors, juror number 1, juror number 5, juror number 6, right there on the very first row, were already had signs of bias and have signs of problems here with this case. And, how can that happen in a potential of hundreds and thousands of jurors that have been pulled from Clark County?
They've already been pre-scanned, so some of these jurors should have already been pulled out and shouldn't even be in the courtroom today.
I have a list of the juror numbers that the defense team is asking to get rid of before we ever even started talking to these jurors. Juror number 6, juror number 7, juror number 26, 34, 45, 46, 51, 49, 71, 66, 64. Those here the defense team asked for those jurors to be removed and excluded before we ever started. They said if these jurors are asked the wrong question, they could taint the rest of these potential jurors because they already have showed signs of bias. One had, like we said, dinner with Lombardo just this past Sunday, and he's still sitting among these jurors and these other potential jurors. He even said over, I noticed he turned and talked to juror number 2 during this after they had found out that he had had dinner with Lombardo last Sunday, and he's sitting there talking to juror number 2. This should have never happened. They should have been pulled, but the judge again allowed these potential biased jurors to sit among the other jurors, and so that's just some of what we're seeing. Each one of the defendants, Cliven, Ryan Bundy, and Ammon, and Ryan Payne, were all asked to why they were wearing their jail clothes. And each one of them says they just chose to. They were all shackled in the courtroom today in front of these potential jurors. The judge, Ryan Bundy, made a good point about that. He says he was requesting his shackles to be removed before the potential jurors come in. And the judge says, well, you're wearing jail clothes. I don't think it really matters much. They can tell you're a detainee and you're in custody. So we're going to leave you in shackles.
That's so important to remember, is because you could be detained because you're either a threat to the public, or you could be detained because you're a flight risk. So simply wearing their jail clothes does not mean that they're a threat, they're dangerous to the public. While having shackles on your legs would imply that you are a threat, and you cannot even be present with marshals all around you without being restricted by these chains. So I think that creates a huge bias right there for these jurors to see these men all in the leg irons. I think that's absolutely wrong.
The judge did make one point there. She said that your actions last week, I feel that you should have to wear them today, but I may make up my mind tomorrow if things go good. She's punishing them and making them wear leg irons, not because they're a safety risk, because it's a punishment. She's trying to prove a point with them. She's trying to humble them down to where they're submissive to her. And she keeps telling them over and over again, you will be put in the holding cell if you do anything out of the ordinary, out of wrong, or look at the back of the audience. They were under strict orders today not to look at none of us observers in the audience, or even talk to us or smile at us.
I did notice at the end, though, when they turned around to show respect to the jurors as they left, I noticed how dark Ammon's eyes were. His eye sockets were really sunk in compared to some of the others. And, I mean, almost like they were black eyes. I don't think they were black eyes, but that's how dark they looked. And all of them from the back, of course, look horribly thin. Cliven Bundy looks like he's aged 30 years, which, you know, that's a lot when you're already in your 70s. Since he's been detained, he's deteriorating rapidly, which is, you know, a very important reason why our Bill of Rights grants us bail, so that we can actually adequately be out preparing for trial unless we have committed a capital offense or murdered somebody. But these men are being treated as though they've murdered somebody, and that is going to hinder them heading into this trial, not being as prepared, being malnourished, looking the way that they do. It's really an injustice right now to our Bill of Rights and to our country, the way that these detainees are being taken care of.
So hopefully here after lunch, we'll find out which of these potential jurors are going to be released and not being used. And then we're going to get another batch of 70 to 80 new jurors, potential jurors, to do the same thing we did this morning. And we're going to try to do that every day this week through Wednesday and maybe Thursday. And the judge said if it needs to be, we'll even go into Monday selecting